Thank you, Randy, very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm pretty sure I'm the last voice you expected today, but I am here. My name is JP the Third. I am the editor-in-chief of VNsnow.com. Some of you may know me. If you don't, yeah, I'm pretty sure chat will tell you. And to all of the publishers and developers that have heard of my work, hello, it's good to see you. Today, we are not talking about my work in the editorial reviewer sphere. Today, we're talking about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and that is business organization and laws and contracts, which makes me the end of the kind of nerdy geek block here. So what's going to happen today? First, we're going to do a quick introduction just so I can do my bona fides. I'm going to talk about why you should care about this, because some of the background thoughts, especially when you're starting on a project that you love, is, well, why should I care about this? I just want to have fun, and we're just going to do this quick little project. It's just for NaNoWriMo or Jam. Trust me, there's a reason that you should care. But talk a little bit about intellectual property, about contracts. Yes, you do need one, no matter who you are. Team organization and structure. Should you consider incorporation? That's something that might or might not be for you, depending on what you want to do. And like I said in my talk description, there is a position that is almost never filled in a visual novel development group that I'm going to talk about today as well. Some other sources and some Danishes. I wish I could share them through the screen with you, but if time permits, we will get to that as well. So let me get to the written part of the program. Good morning, everyone. And I want to thank Randy, of course, for allowing me to talk here. And I want to thank all of you for attending. These types of events are extremely important to the growth of not just the visual novel developers community, but also the wider visual novel market in the West. Many of you are developers, but hopefully a few of you are fans, maybe a few members of the press like myself, and most importantly, people with vision. And today's conferences will give you a taste of not only the present of this market, the present, but also the future. My talk today is of a more professional nature, and I know that leads to the question, who is this guy? And why is he going to be talking to us about this? Well, I'm not going to cut to a wall full of degrees that I've got that qualifies for me this. What I have is practical experience of over 15 years of studying and applying what I'm about to tell you today. Currently, I sit on the board of directors for 2 nonprofit organizations. I advise a board of a for-profit startup. I am an active state and local government lobbyist and have worked on legislation on finance, insurance, and healthcare in my state. And I have my own startup that I organize myself that serves as the parent company of VNsnow. So what I'm talking about today isn't just theory, and it's not from somebody who's like an MBA. If a schlub like me can figure this stuff out and do it, you guys can do it easy. Secondly, if you are familiar with my work, then you're familiar with the phrase, I can English. You've already heard it in this presentation. Country JP is going to make an appearance. I'm going to trip over some things, even the part that I wrote out. So we're going to do the best I can. And it's going to start with this. A little something that I have to include considering what we're talking about. This little notice. And I'm going to move this thing out of the way. Good. And this is for my particular legal protection. I don't think you guys want to sue me or anything, but because of the content we're talking about, this has to be read and it has to be seen. So while the following conversation will cover several legal topics, Joel Trust, that is me, aka JP III, is not an attorney, has no standing with the State Bar of Georgia, and cannot provide legal advice or recommend certain courses of legal action. The presenter will not have a legal degree for another few years, and even then it will not cover what we are talking about today. This discussion and presentation are meant for broad educational purposes only, and the presenter strongly recommends anyone looking for actual legal assistance to seek help from their local bar association, the clerk of their local or state or provisional court, and the licensed legal and professional services that will be mentioned at the end of this presentation. Now, for many people, that paragraph will probably feel a little pedantic. However, for me, that paragraph is important because it protects me. Again, not that I think you guys will try and sue me, but the truth is that we're kind of strangers here. And in that situation, I have to look out for my interest, and you all have to look out for yours. People get screwed over every day, not because they're taken advantage of, but because they don't take the proper steps to protect themselves before chasing an idea or dream. I've been observing the visual novel community for the last 7 years this year, and I have seen groups and ideas fall apart because they went into it thinking, well, I don't need a contract. After all, we're going to be partners. This person is a friend, or this person is someone I admire. we'll always be close and we have nothing to hide and we'll always get along. And if that was how humanity operated, those groups would still be active today. If we're being honest, if that was humanity, some of those groups would still be on speaking terms today. A lot of groups have broken up and their projects have fallen apart, going into it thinking exactly that. Come on, mouse. There we go. So, what you have to understand about money and even ideas is that they don't create problems from whole cloth. Human beings are messy and things change all the time. Outside forces like gaining or losing a job, your personal finances, your family situation, your health, and even whether or not you'll be alive at the conclusion of your project are not guaranteed. Sorry about the life thing, guys, but it's true. Inserting money and ideas into that chaos we call life will only exacerbate whatever issues you have coming in, if you're a perfectionist or not, or if you don't work well under pressure. What you're about to experience in the developmental process will only amplify that in ways you haven't even thought of yet. That's why we have the systems that we do. Corporations and contracts. The earliest corporations, joint stock companies, were formed because merchants wanted to invest in new ships for traveling across the seas and whatnot to get indigo and spices, but couldn't guarantee they would live through the construction or the voyage of those ships, and even if the ship itself will come back from its voyage. By limiting their personal risk and the money they put into it, they ensured that their central business and the profits they wanted to make were protected. Central business, contracts, everything like that. My presentation today is about protecting yourself when the inevitable happens. And if you try and get some return off this little hobby we call visual novels, what I have to say is not 100% bulletproof, and you will still encounter issues in developing your work. However, just by following some of these basic steps, you'll be in a much better position not only to produce your visual novel, but to profit from it as long as you want to profit from it. So, let's talk about these ships, not that kind of ship, but the product ship that you're looking to build, and then we'll discuss how to profit and protect from them. So, let's start with intellectual property. Now, there's a little case I want to mention, and I've made a little note for it myself here, and that's this. You have all probably seen this image by now. Last year, the new season of FLCL released a trailer with this image. And if you were paying attention at the time, there was a big ruckus because an artist pointed this image out and said these cat ear headphones in particular were stolen from her for the design of this character. That was resolved when Project IG said we'll give you a creation credit for the overall design of cat ear headphones. Not important. If I was in the room at the time and they had hired me for any kind of legal advice and they said, hey, JP, we have this artist and she designed these headphones. She has the copyright and patent. And this is hers. These are ours. What should we do? I would tell her to kick rocks. Her copyright and patent protects certain design features and sales protections. It does not cover this. That because Production IG was so nice, or more realistically, they just wanted to get the issue out of the way, they allowed it to slide and gave her creation credit. But if she actually tried to sue them, she would have no standing, not in a US court, not in a Japanese court, not in a Canadian court. I'm not sure if she's United States American or Japanese or Canadian, whatever. No standing. And that is something we're trying to get you guys to avoid. So let's start with the basic definition. An intellectual property is a work or invention that is the result of creativity, such as a manuscript or a design, to which one has the right for and for which one can apply for a patent, copyright, trademark, etc. But it is that specific idea, that specific design, that specific variation of a design. You have to list everything out when you apply for a patent, copyright, or trademark. Coca-Cola in particular has several. They have a copyright and patent for the Coke itself. They have one for the color of the can. They have one for, it's not the lettering, I believe it's the shade of white, because this is a particular shade of white. And if you try to use those in the selling of another soda, they can sue your pants off and win. So you have to keep that in mind when dealing with intellectual property, that the results of your creativity are for a specific purpose and idea. It is not just a broad generalization in anything. Otherwise, everybody can sue an otome maker for making an otome game. I had to include one otome joke in there. So the question of intellectual property, at least for me, is when you can claim rights on it. When can you say, this is something I created, I want to profit off of it, well, when can I do it? You can either do it through the filing of a patent, copyright, or trademark for that specific idea, and or through a contract. Because during the contract negotiation process, you guys will be deciding who owns what and who will be doing for what, who will be doing for what for that idea, excuse me. So when you're beginning your project, when you're laying everything out, you can say, okay, I want to copyright this and go through the patent office and go through the $120 fee to make all of these designs my idea. Or when you're creating your contract, you can say, okay, this is how we want to lay it out so I can own it. And that is what we will be getting into next. The fun part, the part that you've all been waiting for, contracts. So a contract is a written or spoken agreement, especially one concerning employment, sales, or tenancy that is intended to be enforceable by law. Spoken contracts only work, verbal contracts only work if you literally live next to the person. That's the only way they work. And it's the only, I know somebody will probably tell you different. If you're talking to JP, this isn't up for interpretation. If I'm literally down the street from Randy and I want Randy to work with Randy on something, there's a possibility that we can have a spoken contract. If Randy's in another state and I wanted to do some work with Randy, we're getting a written contract. So no matter what you do, no matter what kind of project you do, free, paid, otherwise, whatever you do not start any work on it until both parties have signed the contract. Written. Write it out. Period. No excuses. End of story. Why? To protect you. It is not, and again, this is going to sound quite cynical, and my editor here will attest because he's in the chat and he will attest that I can be cynical sometimes, but it is not the business of anybody else to protect you. It is not. It is yours. And the way you do it is through a contract. So before you do that, a part of your negotiations should be you need to look into the legal and business records of both parties if they have it. If they're an established business like Sekai Project, Manga Gamer, or a long-running independent development group, look into their history of legal and business records. If they've incorporated, it's available. If not, ask for it. Just say, hey, I want to see other deals, unless they're private, if they have a non-disclosure agreement or anything. But if they have, if they are willing to share public business records, most of that is available through contracts as part of negotiation, unless it's protected by a non-disclosure agreement. That's a whole different subject. We're not getting into that today. Will they be represented by a legal entity? Is JP signing the contract for JP, or is the corporation behind JP that JP works for signing the contract? So to put that in general terms, is the CEO of Sekai Project, is he signing off on something for personal work for him, or is Sekai Project Inc. signing on to a contract that you're going to be working for Sekai Project? You got to clear that up right off the top. And the time frame for both parties. How long are you going to be working on this? I know that sounds like, oh, we're going to work on it until it's done. Lay out a time frame. Because again, contracts are there to protect you because you don't know what's going to happen. So if you can't just say in perpetuity, we're going to work until it's done, because you don't know what's going to happen to you. And if something does happen to you where you can't keep going, somebody needs to pick up the slack from your place. Again, a little cynical, but it's life. So you need to have a general time frame. It doesn't have to be strict, but a general time frame of how long you expect that contract to last. So contracts determine a few things. Like I said, off the top, ownership of the intellectual property. You'll be deciding, usually a contract will say this project is owned by party A, and party B will be doing X amount of work for that project. That will be the role you'll be taking. The role of the artist, role of the writer, role of the composer. You have to spell it all out in the contract exactly what that role is. And the reason why is not on here, but I'll skip to it. The reason why is because there is a such thing as exclusivity. The idea that while you're working under contract, that you can't do anything else, that your job is specifically to work on the project that the contract is listed. So if I hire an artist. If I hired Deji, who's not in here, if I hired Deji and said, okay, Deji, I want you to do X, Y, and Z for me, and that's all the work I want you to do while the contract's enforceable. A, she would probably kick my head off. B, B, it would be up to her to say, no, I want to work on other projects. I work on your projects as well, but you cannot have exclusivity over my work while I'm working on your project. So that's why it's important to spell out the roles and to make sure it's absolutely clear. Payment for services rendered. Don't work for free. I I feel like that should go without saying, but really don't. If you have no choice, if you're just stuck with working for free, then fine, so be it. If you just have a party that insists and you're on the other end and they're insisting on doing it for free and they won't take your money for nothing, God bless you. Get it in writing. Getting in the contract, this person is working for free and they give up all rights to be paid. Otherwise, list out how you're going to pay them. Is it going to be cash? Is it going to be a paper check? Is it going to be through credit card? Is it going to be through electronic transfer, PayPal, whatever? List exactly how you're going to pay them and what they can expect to get, how they can expect to get the money. You don't have to put anything like bank account information or anything on there, but you do have to make it absolutely clear how it's going to go. And you can also get paid through equity ownership or royalties. Basically, if we're starting a project and it's for a little money, but I'm planning on making it commercial down the line, you can say, okay, I want 50% or 40% or percentage of whatever the project does in the future in lieu of getting paid right now. Or if you're an incorporation, you can say, okay, I want so much money I want so much stock in the company in lieu of getting paid right now. And you can also talk about legal jurisdiction, where the contract will be enforced. So they should also contain, like I said, the exact rules for both parties, exclusivity, the dates of the timeframes, and of course the deadline that you want to complete the work. You should also consider putting that in as well. Again, it's just to try your best to protect yourself. The details of the project, exactly what your project is. It's a visual novel project. This is the title. This is what we're working on. Very simple. How payments will be transferred, blah, 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 and how to cancel the contract. Basically, that's a tail end thing saying, okay, if we don't get X amount of work done and Y amount of time, we can both walk away from the contract. Or if something else comes up, we can walk away from the contract. Include that clause because, again, if something comes up and they have to walk away, you want to be covered. Now, the reality of all this is enforcing a breach of contract is costly and time consuming. If you're going to business with anyone, be prepared for any and all possibilities, any and all. If you're working with someone from another country, which is common in the EVN community, do the following. Contact their consul's office, research any and all trade agreements between you and their country, and consider any potential barriers, like is English their first language? Is Japanese their first language? What's their language? And bring it up. Like, will they need a contract translated for them? And will they need that in paper? Cover every single potential base so that you can say, if you have to walk in and enforce this contract, I took all means to make sure everything was clear and that everything was covered. And you'll have to accept that this won't stop a breach. If somebody's a jerk, they're a jerk. There's nothing you can do about it. It will offer you the protection it can, but there's nothing you can really do to stop it. And I want to get to the role, and I am running short on time, so we will skip the sample contract and get to that one role that I have to include in this presentation. And maybe if there are any questions, I'll come back to the sample contract. The partnerships are nice, extremely dangerous for everybody involved, but nice, very nice. The reality is that if you're working in tandem with somebody or you're contracting work, you're going to be very busy. There's one role that you need to consider for every group, and that's a business manager. Now, I know some people will say, well, JP, I don't know anybody and I can't afford Jack Welch or Jeff Maltz or any of these big time CEOs. Are you in college? Does your university have a college of business? Congratulations, you just found a pool of potential business managers that will work for cheap. They will literally work for a sandwich. I noticed because I was one of them. So a business manager in any group should have the following responsibilities: keep everybody on schedule, serve as a team referee, basically be the impartial person that people can bring their issues to from another part of the group and say, okay, this is what we're going to do and this is what we're trying to accomplish. Oversee the budget. Yes, you should have that. Another presentation, just like non-disclosure agreements, and the cash flow of the project. So if you have Kickstarter, Patreon money, anything like that, their job is to keep track of all of that money. And I'm bumping the mic, I'm sorry, Randy. keep track of all that money, make sure that it's being spent wisely. That's all expenses, and somebody needs to make sure it's being expended properly. And also to keep file and track of all agreements and contracts and ensure that they are kept. Now, if you're considering incorporation, you should should have some level of limited liability. Contracts usually spell that out. If you have a contract, it spells out, okay, this is the money I'm putting into the project, why, and this is how much I'm doing. However, there should always be proper framework paperwork. Basically, this is how the group is running outside of the contract, articles of incorporation, organization, whatever. My rule of thumb is if you're considering profiting from your work in any way, consider incorporation. For tax reasons, for legal reasons, this is the best way to go about it. If no, you can consider other options. Either way, talk to an attorney. Again, like I said at the top, I'm not one. But talking to an attorney, listing these things out will help immensely with your project. Now, finally, before we go, you might want to consider the law firm of Leonard J. French. He is my favorite YouTube copyright attorney. If you follow me on Twitter, I usually link his videos. He knows his stuff when it comes to new media. And he usually takes questions both on his YouTube channel and through his legal page. If you have any questions about new media, definitely check him out. Check out newmediarights.org, another new media organization that's great with copyrights, contracts, legal advice for creators. Definitely check them out as well. If you are considering legal incorporation or any sort of business forms, there are several different sources you can do. I like LegalZoom.com. It is how I have incorporated every business I've done so far. Definitely check them out. If you like reading like me, go get yourself a copy of Robert's Rules of Order. You can read it for free. It's good to have a book on handy though of the latest rules and changes. Start Your Own Corporation by Gary Sutton. It's basically a business primer. It is solid. Go ahead and pick that up. And 2 ideas for just how to think about your business are Moneyball, The Art of Winning an Unfair Game, and Winning. Those are 2 very, very good books. If you're just thinking about profiting in any way, absolutely check them out. And your local bar association and the state province can, whatever court system you're around, they can offer you free help. They can't offer you free advice. So reach out to them. They'll be more than happy to help you out. And that is all I've got, Randy. We actually got to the Danishes, even though I couldn't get to my sample contract. Thank you guys for listening. Good luck to your projects. I look forward to what you're doing. And like I said, protect yourself, protect yourself, protect yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you. You got to do it for yourself.
Yay. Thank you. We're all right. Next year, I promise we're going to go back to 20 minutes because 15 is being tough for everyone.
I know I started rushing it at the end. I apologize for anybody who couldn't follow along.
You're also like we're actually in the lunch hour now, so you're actually not trampling on anyone's time at all. So
all right, I can do it.
Yeah, we do have some breaks to let off a little bit of time pressure, but yeah, next year we're gonna go back to the longer format. So yeah, executive decision right there. Okay, so
as long as everybody understood the basics, I'm good. Like I said, I know I talk fast, but if you guys got the basics, I walk away happy.
Yeah, seriously, this was the one talk where I saw the proposal, so I'm like, this is going in. I didn't even have to think about it. Because yeah, I'm old. Like even this conference is done under a corporation. Like it's serious. Just get it. Just do it. It's worth the money. You can do multiple things under a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's just good for any type of financial situation. It's the best way to protect yourself because can I share a story right quick?
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, we reviewed and talked about a game, and the developer of the game didn't like me very much for what I said. So they threatened to sue us. And I said, okay, you can do it, but you're not suing me because we were incorporated at the time. VNS Now is the propriety of another corporation, so you'll be suing that corporation. And the lawsuit stopped. Because it's a whole different world suing an individual person in a corporation. So even on that it doesn't seem like much and it seems kind of out the way to do the paperwork, but I promise you guys, if any situation like that comes out, it goes a long way to just have that contract, have that incorporation. And if you do an LLC, do articles of organization, it goes a long way. Holy God.